Hey, it's Coda163, and it's been over a year since my last video. So I'm gonna start off where I left off. I was in Taiwan, I was worried about my host families knowing I was gay or not. I ended up not telling them until I came back to America and I posted it on Facebook, and the reaction was really quite well. It was amazing, actually. And they probably knew, I didn't not post different things on Facebook, and I had Facebook friends who were gay, and I would post things, and I'd hang out with, gay people, and but I didn't tell them. I didn't know. I eventually decided that, it was more my business than their business. So, besides that, the last 6 months I was in Taiwan, I traveled. I made more friends, even more friends than I had. I learned Chinese a lot more. My Chinese is okay. Since being back in America, it's gotten worse, but I learned a lot more, and I'm really proud that I was able to do as good as I did. So, yeah. And then, like I said, I traveled a lot. And during one of these travels, it was probably actually a month before I left Taiwan. We were on this tour, and we with fellow exchange students and a few Taiwanese people that were gonna go and do exchange the next year, and so it was really great because we got to see Taiwan. I got to hang out with my European friends. I got to make Taiwanese friends who were going to America, who were going to Europe the next year, and it was just really a great end to my exchange. And on this trip, we went to a beach. The beach is called Kunting, and it's a beautiful beach. It's kind of small, but it's beautiful. And so we were there at the beach at night in a group, and they had these Chinese lanterns. And these Chinese lanterns, you write a wish on it, and then you light it on fire, and it floats up in the sky. And I watched mine float up in the sky and took like 20 minutes to disappear. And I just sat there looking at it amidst all my friends who were bouncing around having fun. And I was just there looking at it, sitting on the beach, feeling the sand in my hand. And I watched my wish float away. And it was truly amazing. And then about a month later, I headed home. I went to the airport. I got to hug my best friend and say goodbye to the best friend in the whole entire world, because she hadn't gone back to her country yet, so she got to see me off. And then I tried to hug one of my Taiwanese best friends, but he wouldn't let me hug him. And then my host dad cried, and it was so surreal. And my host mom was all sad, and I was not trying not to cry, but I can't really cry well, so it was just really hard for me. So as I was going through customs and through security and getting ready to go back to America, I just felt so sad, and I didn't want to go back. But at the same time, I did. I wanted to see my dad, and I wanted to, get back home and start my life. But I was lost. I'd spent a year in Taiwan, and I'd had this amazing life, and I was going back to this life I had that wasn't near as fun or amazing. And I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I hadn't applied to college, and I wasn't confident that I would be successful in college because my brothers and sisters didn't go to college. So, you know, why should I go to college? Am I going to be successful in college? Am I going to graduate college? So I ended up coming back, and for the first week it was okay, and then I got to spend 5 days with the love of my life. And he was an exchange student in America while I was an exchange student in Taiwan, and he was coming to my state. So before he came to America, he wanted to add friends on Facebook and Skype with them and talk to them and practice his English. So we ended up dating, pretty much for the whole year while we were on exchange. And then we got to be together for 5 days. And at first it was really awkward because we picked him up at a Rotarian's house, and Rotary doesn't allow relationships for exchange students. So if you're an exchange student, you're not supposed to be in a relationship. So we were just friends, and he was going to spend 5 days at my house. So I acted kind of weird. I acted like serious, like he's a friend, hi. And I talked to the Rotarian, and, it was kind of awkward. And then we got back in the car and we were leaving, and I don't remember. I think I touched his thigh or whatever, and we really started talking. And once the first 5 minutes were past, we like fell into our routine of knowing each other because we did. We just hadn't been in the flesh before, so it was a little weird. And those 5 days were the best days of my life. They were like I don't know. They were like a door or a window into a future that I had never imagined. I knew I loved him, but when I met him and I was with him, I really loved him, and I really still do love him. But 5 days ended, and he had planned to come back to America and study, but that fell through, and we continued dating, and one day it just wasn't enough for him, and he just couldn't be in the relationship any longer. And it was really hard, and I completely understood why, and I accepted it. But it hurt, he is, in my opinion, the love of my life. So it's not like it was like, oh, okay, we're done, just fine. I was crushed, but I wasn't gonna let myself be crushed. So I've been moving forward. But in reality, I was living in America, and I'd been back to America for like a year when he broke up with me, and I hadn't really done anything. I'd worked. I had 2 jobs. I was working all the time. I was drowning myself in my work. And that's all I was doing. I didn't have any goals. I tried online university for 2 courses. I didn't like it. I finished my second course. Then I got out. I passed both my classes, but I didn't like online learning. I didn't like the college at all. And so he just broken up with me. I was going nowhere in life, and then I ended up quitting both of those jobs, and I got another job in manufacturing. The jobs I had before was I was a cook, and then I was a sales clerk at a convenience store. And so then I went into manufacturing for 2 months, and I ended up having to resign for personal reasons. And then I went back to cooking at a nursing home, and I've been there ever since. But I finally decided, after a year and a half of not knowing what I want to do, I figured out what I want to do. I want to become a psychiatrist. So this upcoming January, I will be attending college on campus, and I will study psychology for 4 years, and then hopefully I'll study in medical school for psychiatry, and then I'll have 4 years of residency, and after 12 years of school and, I don't know, practice, I will become a psychiatrist, and by the age 32, 33, I will be independent, or maybe not completely independent, but you get the gist. So that's my plan on that part. And for some more future news, I'm going back to Taiwan in a month, and I'm going to be there for a month, and I really am looking forward to going and seeing my friends and my host families and practicing my Chinese, because I haven't practiced my Chinese, at all. My Chinese is just bad now. And so I look forward to going and practicing my Chinese, traveling, seeing all my friends, and then I'll come back and I'll work for 3 months, and then I'll go to college, and I'll start my future, and I'll move forward with my life. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you later.